this middle-aged woman from Sweden who was so afraid of speaking English, I had to script everything I said. They reached out to me and said, Anneli, you won't believe it, but your course is the best-selling launch ever.
Go figure.
So this was my 4 brand strategy fundamentals 6-figure launch.
He resonates with people who are underdogs because no one thinks that we can do something, and then when we shine, it kind of automatically liberates other people who are underdogs.
Everything about branding 2026 will be about.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Yourself podcast, the podcast on expressing our true selves. Today my guest is Anneli Hansen, who is an educator, brand strategist, global keynote speaker, a coach to leaders with over 25 years of experience. Anneli, well, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
The pleasure is mine. So we just talked off the record that we're both not in the US and trying to build a business, an international business. Being, where are you at? Where are you located right now?
I'm located in a small town called Nynäshamn, about 45 minutes south of Stockholm.
Oh.
So the ferry to Poland is actually from my little town.
Wow, that's amazing. And you also shared that right now you have this amazing community and an amazing coverage. So you're helping brand strategists and marketers to grow and shine bright, find their positionings, create their personal brand. But I'm interested. How did you kind of start, and how did you find what you wanted to do in life? Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah, so I grew up in this super small island outside Stockholm. It's actually 400 people. Around 400 people. So you can imagine it's small. So, and we were around 30 people in my school, the entire school, 5 people in my class. So when you grew up like that, you just get a lot of imagination, like, because you don't have so many friends to play with and you're like outside in nature all the time. And my dad did a lot of like hunting and fishing and all of that. So that's how I grew up. And then moved to a bigger school and to the city where I actually live now when I was 13. And that was like the first time I ever got, in touch and realized what a brand is, for example, because I had no idea, So that's when I was 13. It's really important in that age that you get friends a lot about like what clothes you wear. And it was really important to wear those Levi's jeans because those jeans meant belonging and status and you were someone,
Yeah.
So my life kind of changed a lot when I got to that school. And then like fast forward, I moved from home. My parents got divorced. I moved from home when I was only 17 and I just had to do something. So I went to the US. I worked for 6 months as a nanny in Chicago for 3 small kids.
How old were you?
I just turned 18. I think it was a week after I turned 18.
Wow, super young lady.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm.
I was really young and totally fearless, maybe a little bit too much. And then when I got back home, I realized like, okay, I don't have any university degree. I need to pay my own bills. I need to have an apartment. The only thing that I could imagine that I could do to get some money was to start in sales. So my first jobs were actually like cold calling as sales calls, like, pick up the phone 50, 70, 100 times a day.
Yeah.
And if you don't sell, you don't get commission.
Yeah.
So that was a rough start, but I tell that too, because now looking back, starting out with that sales experience, which I actually been selling my entire life after that, basically, at least when I was being a consultant and have my own business, you need to know how to sell. So I'm actually really happy about how it started out. But being in that age, it was tough.
Yeah. What did you sell?
I sold a lot of different things. My first job, actually, the fun story is my first job was not even selling. It was basically matchmaking. So I did matchmake people out in the street, like old school style of Tinder, the dating app. But this was like dating out in the street. So I just found people out in the street, train station, gallerias, and I approached them and I said, hey, are you single? And if they were single, I took their information. And then I'm like, I could matchmake you with someone nice I meet.
Wow.
It's really weird. It sounds weird when I tell, but it was really fun until the police came and this is not even legal to do. I had no idea. So that was my real first job. And then I started to sell hockey tickets. I was selling Xerox, what do you call that? Like Xerox. Yeah. The copy machine, whatever it's called. Yeah. So I sold that. I've been selling ads. I've been selling several things.
Wow. This reminds me of In Pursuit of Happiness. You remember this movie with Will Smith? Where he was also selling some kind of copy machines or something. Well, I digress.
Machine, I think.
Wow. So how important is this absence of fear? And I don't understand, how did you develop it in such an early age, right? Maybe you can tell me how. But how important is being fearless as people try to branch out from their corporate world, from their jobs, and start something on their own?
I think I was much more fearless when I was younger. And I do think it's connected to somehow, there's different step in when you learn things. And when you don't know so much, you also don't have any self-awareness about that you don't know. You don't know what you're lacking. So that could also make it easier to be fearless. I didn't have any education, so I just went for it. I had nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
The older you get, the more you have to lose. And I could see that because I've been in the corporate environment for a long time. And I've been responsible for a corporate brand, growing that brand with like a yearly budget of $6-7 million US, and working with 6-7 agencies at the same time. There were 15,000 employees. So I've been in that top level in the corporate world. And the higher up you get, the more nervous people get, and the more they're not really saying what they want, because they also are depending on their salary and their titles. And I really respect that because, but so that's sometimes I think that it's easy to say that we should be fearless, but people could also have a reality when they have a family to support and they need that job. And you cannot say anything. If you're totally fearless and say what's on your mind, then you probably end up getting fired, especially in the corporate world, So I think I started out really fearless. I've been kind of fearless all my life when I was actually running my own business. But then when 2019-20, when the pandemic hit and COVID hit, and I actually did that pivot on starting to teach and coach on an international market when I met Christo and the Future, that's when I started to have more fear. Because then I started to doubt myself in ways I've never doubted myself before.
Yeah. So the stakes became higher.
Yeah.
Tell us about this new phase, new chapter in your life. How did you actually met Christo in the Future? How did you become one of their creators? And I know that you're one of the best-selling authors on their platform. So how did it come about?
Yeah, it was actually kind of a coincidence. I had a long career since 98 working with marketing and branding in Sweden. And I've been having that job on the corporate side. And I was going to do a talk about branding in Sweden. So I did some research and I came across Chris and his partner Jose on YouTube. And I never, ever looked at YouTube because I thought that was like for kids. So I didn't do that. But then I saw them and I'm like, something interesting with these guys. Like I feel like they're talking about their business of design and the design of business. And they express themselves very similar to how I do. And especially I like that Asian guy. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, Chris Do, who's that? I never seen him before. I had no idea what the Future was and who Chris was. So I decided that I'll give him a couple of months and see if he's like a trustworthy person or just an internet guy. So I followed them for a while. And then I decided to join the Future Pro group, which is their coaching community, or Chris's. And so I was just a member. The main reason I did it was because I felt I need to challenge myself. And this was before the pandemic, I want to work outside Sweden because I've worked with global brands in Sweden, but I never worked like in English, and I never worked with other people, all around the world. So I'm like, if I challenge myself and do that, then I have to learn how to speak English. So that was like basically my challenge to myself. Just hang around for a while, get to know people, practice your English, and no one in Sweden will notice because you will not, you don't have to be ashamed. No one is there. So that's why I started. And it took about like maybe 6 months or a year. And then I did my first workshop with the Future, like for the Future in brand strategy. And I had a subgroup in the coaching community. And it was just like a lot of fun. But that's when the challenge started, because it's one thing to say, yeah, that would be a fun idea. It was a little bit of a guinea pig because I think this was the first time they actually took someone from the community and had that person do workshops and a course.
Wow.
Also, I was not from the US and I was not even from an English speaking country. So this is like a middle-aged woman from Sweden, some country up there, in the north, and Vikings. And we just gave her a chance and see if anyone wants to buy it.
Wow.
And they did. They sold out all workshops we did. And we decided to do this course called Brand Strategy Fundamentals. And oh my God, that was a challenge for me. To have the live workshops, I was used to that. It was really fun. But then to record it, oh my God. Talk about like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That was tough.
So you started as a member and somehow it transitioned to be an opportunity where you became one of the creators, one of the mentors. So is this something that is happening and could happen inside of the Future community? They give a chances to their members to kind of graduate and become one of their partners in a way?
I mean, I don't see so many courses anymore that they do. So, But I mean, I do know because we did a lot of content during the pandemic on Clubhouse. I don't know if you remember Clubhouse.
Yeah. It's a very fast and get that Kindle that burn really fast.
Yeah, so we were hanging out there a little bit. I remember before Christmas, and then he was like, maybe we should try out to do some fun content. So he named it like the Mod Squad, the moderator squad. So he asked me, Mo and Rigo, both of them worked for him, and they didn't do then. They were also members.
Oh,
so he asked us to do content. So we started to do content, and then after that, Chris continued to do another mod squad where other people were in. I think it was Martha and Jewel and a couple of other people who also done content with him after. And I had my own group. So I started to train other people, and Mo trained other people. So it kind of grew. So we trained people on how to facilitate, how to be in media.
It's all in Clubhouse?
Always on Clubhouse.
Wow.
We did so much content for about 6 months. Almost daily content. So it was a really, really good school, and I had to practice my English. I mean, I started out writing my entire script. Chris was very generous because he's like, just sit here and talk when you feel ready. And I was literally writing everything because I was so nervous of looking stupid speaking English. So that's how it started out. And so I think, I mean, I don't know if that's opportunities there right now, but what I do know is that a lot of the people who started in the pro group has been doing other things. Drigo is working for Chris now, doing his video. Mo is his content strategist. He also was in the pro group the same time as me. He's doing content wheel with Jewel Kim. She was also in the pro group. So several of us come kind of from the pro group from start.
This just speaks to us, to Chris, as such a pure heart, willing to take chances on people who are, different. Because with me, he agreed to do a podcast with me. He said, "Hey, you're from Ukraine," and I didn't understand why he agreed to do so. But then I realized that we kind of share, this distinct thing where we're not Americans, right? We're immigrants in a way, or trying to capture a global market. So it's cool. Yeah. I think I now realize that he's doing that. He's kind of he resonate with people who are underdogs in a way, because no one thinks that we can do something, and then when we shine, it kind of automatically liberates other people who are underdogs, who have maybe low self-esteem, and they think, this guy's different. He's got an accent. He doesn't have a perfect English, but he can achieve these results on an international level. Maybe I can too, right?
Yeah, it's been really important for me because he gave me that chance. And I mean, people could be like, "Oh, but why do you prize him so much? Like, why do you want to talk about him?" And I'm like, because he's one of the most generous people I know. And also because he gave me that chance. And of course I deserved, or whatever you say, kind of a chance, because it wasn't that like I was a beginner.
Yeah.
I've been doing it since 98. I worked with really, really big global brands like Volvo, Levi's, Coca-Cola. I had the reps in, I knew my stuff. But it's one thing to be here in Sweden and feel safe. You know how that is in your own country, your own culture.
Yeah.
And out of a sudden you're going to record something in English. And I just remember I had like meltdowns I was so nervous. I had to buy a teleprompter because I could not remember the words in English. So I had to buy a teleprompter so I could read it. And then I had to practice how to read it so it wasn't so obvious that I was reading it. And I was so nervous. And I also did all the curriculum and I planned all the course myself. And I have never taught that way. I taught a lot of companies before and coach and mentor, when I was a consultant, but not creatives. And it's a little bit different because most of the people I taught before, they have a business background, a marketing background.
Yeah.
Most people that I taught in that course are often graphic designers or creatives, and they don't have that business background. So I had to be a little bit more on fundamental level first to get the pre-understanding of everything. So it was a challenge, but I'm so glad we did it. And I can show you something. This is like a humble brag. Okay.
Okay.
I actually noticed that I had it here. I haven't seen it in a really long time, but now because we talk about this. So this is like my little award. For this, when I launched this course with the Futur, in a couple of weeks, I think 3-4 weeks, they reached out to me and said, "Anneli, you won't believe it, but your course is the best-selling launch ever we did."
Go figure.
So this was my 4 brand strategy fundamentals, 6-figure launch.
Wow. Congrats.
So I don't say that to brag, but I say because I'm proud of myself, because it shows that this middle-aged woman from Sweden who was so afraid of speaking English, I had to script everything I said. I still challenged myself, and I did it. Although I had to do I had anxiety and I was crying and everything, but I did it. And for me, that just shows that if I could do that, anyone who listens to this, you can do anything you want in life if you want it.
Yeah. I mean, I get goosebumps from I have goosebumps with people who I really deeply connect and resonate with. What you're saying is something I've been preaching, but when you believe it without a practical evidence, without a real life kind of fact, that it's one thing. But when you're able to do something that were really unexpected, or the odds were against you, now you can say, hey, I was able to do that. Now you don't have an excuse to say that you can't, right? Because we're in a similar situation. And I think in a way I want to inspire people from my country to go for more ambitious goals, to go after more ambitious goals on the global level, because we have so many people here locally. But I mean, the world is so much bigger.
I just wanted to share a super short story that was so sweet. It was actually a woman from Ukraine. She reached out to me one day and said, I'm actually because when the war started, there were a lot of refugees who came through Poland and then to Sweden. And they came to my city where I live because the ferry is there. So my city just helped a lot of people coming here, and we all did what we could. And I remember she called me and she's like, I'm going to be in my city. Not because she came from as a refugee, but she was from Ukraine. She already, I think she was living in Germany, something like that. So they were here for vacation to meet up with family and other things. Long story short, she called me. She's like, I think I am in your city. And I'm like, oh, really? She's like, I would love to meet you.
Oh, she's been following you.
I met up with her. Yeah, she's been following me for years. So I met up with her and her boyfriend. They were so sweet. And she said, all these years I've been listening to you from Clubhouse. I always felt, even though Anneli is a little bit older than me, you were the one who had English as second language. I always felt if she could do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And after that, she joined the Futur Pro group as a member. And that, just knowing that I could actually inspire someone to take that step, it was just so inspiring for me. So that's also why I share those stories, because people think everything comes so easy for everyone. But it's not. You kind of have to put yourself into these challenging situations for you to get to those places you dream of.
And overnight success is often, there's years of attempts that no one sees, right? And I think Tony Robbins says it right, that the reps that you put in privately, you get rewarded publicly for so many reps that you put in privately, right? So it's never an overnight success. It's been preceded by sleepless nights and a lot of, doubts, but you just somehow need to, find this motivation to keep doing this, right? And then maybe one day there's going to be a break. There's going to be this lucky occurrence worth, like for me, it was the podcast with Chris Do. Now I'm reaching out to people like Mel Robbins or Jay Shetty, or coaches of global magnitude, because now I believe that, hey, if Chris Do gave me a chance, maybe I'll be able to have these other figures on my show as well. So and he said something interesting, that when he was graduating from his art school, and he was kind of ashamed, of his own culture, of his own roots, being from Vietnam. And when he saw at the graduation that the representatives from other Asian countries were wearing all their national outfits, he felt so bad that he was looking down on his own culture, right? And that was a wake-up call for him that you should celebrate who you are. You should not hide your identity. You should actually celebrate it. So he put on his Vietnamese outfit to show who he is, you know? And he said that from that point forward, that was a transformational moment. From that point forward, he promised himself to own who he is and never play small. So I think, you know, when you're from a small country, it's difficult to wrap your mind around the idea that you have to play big, right? But that's totally in the realm of possibilities. Even when people think, why should I message someone who I admire? Because people check their DMs. Anneli, you know, people who have millions of followers, they still check your DMs. So I will encourage all of us guys, if we want to shoot for the stars, if we love someone, drop them a note, right? Maybe they will read, maybe they will reply.
I mean, people are always welcome. I get a lot of DMs and I'm answering. I do all my social media on my own. I never had anyone helping me, and I answer everything. I mean, I think if you appreciate someone's content, it's lovely to get a message with, you know, that you appreciate it, or just saying something specifically that you liked, or what you think is something that could be better. I really welcome that. What I don't like, which 99% people do, is to try to sell something in the first message.
So it seems that you took a page from Chris's book and the Futur Pro Group and built a community of your own called the Brand Rebels for Good. So tell us a little bit about this community and how people get better or thrive in your community with the help of what?
When I wanted to do something that was very niched. And because I had the course, Brand Strategy Fundamentals with the Futur, I wanted to give people an opportunity to implement and to practice and to train. Because it's one thing to read about something or to watch videos, you have to practice too. And brand strategy is on the highest level in a company. And not so many people know about this. They call themselves brand strategists, but they're basically not brand strategists. They do graphic design. Maybe they do branding and then they add something that they think is brand strategy. But because I have a marketing strategy background, a branding background, and a business background, I felt like I really want to give creative people who didn't go to business school, who didn't start in marketing strategy, I want to give them a framework and a process, how they can actually have a structured way of starting getting paid for their thinking and know how to facilitate with clients. So you take a lead and not being that order taker, like not waiting for a client to diagnose their own problem and to call you and ask what to do, but to really like take that leadership role. And you can do that either when you're really young or really experienced. It's more about knowing how to facilitate and have a clear process. So that was my idea. Like, if I start my own community, I want to do something that, of course, is different from the Futur because I would never compete with them. I still am an author and I'm very much a collaborator and, you know, I adore them. So I would never do that. But this was my own community focused on brand strategy. So, and the Brand Rebels for Good is also because I have a background working for companies who really want to do good things in the world. They don't have to be saints, Mother Teresa, but they still have the intention of actually doing things that are good for people and for the planet or for animals. So I felt Brand Rebels for Good is kind of it's a little bit of a statement of, you know what, we're not here to just be your hands or pixel pushers. Like, don't tell us to greenwash for your companies. Like, we want to work for the good guys. And we want to help drive change in a positive way. So that's Brand Rebels for Good. So that's our like foundation of what we believe in, that brands could be a force for good. And I still do client work too. So it's important for me that I'm not an academic professor I'm very much a practitioner with the hands in the work. So during these 4 or 5 years, I'd done less client work because I'd done so much teaching and coaching. But now I'm also going back a little bit more to client work because I think it's really important, partly because I can see that courses and this entire industry goes down a little bit with AI and all the challenges around that. But also because it's important for me to help all companies out there to make this shift, because we're not reaching the United Nations goals for sustainability. Like, we're far away from the climate goals. And I feel like I want to do my part. So I'm back in the trenches of also doing client work. So it's a mix of I coach and train the next generations of brand strategists, and then I'm kind of out there in my own war.
Yeah.
Like for good, doing good. And I don't want to be a passive person just telling others what to do. I want to teach by showing.
Can you give our audience a few nuggets of knowledge on this front? Like, what brands nowadays, especially with the rise of AI, overlook or do wrong that could be a quick fix or just an obvious fix, something that can be implemented right after our talk?
Yeah. I do think one thing that people don't think about so much is that, there's this expression, you can't read the label from inside the jar. It was Seth Godin who said that. And what that means is basically, Peter Drucker, which was like this guru, like one of the old gangsters. He said the purpose of business is to create a customer. And those two things are connected with each other. So what we sometimes forget, and when you work with clients, what they can forget is that they have so much like inside out perspective of, they don't think about really what do the customer needs? What kind of, what kind of problems are we solving for the customers? So here we are fighting about, are we going to call ourselves a brand strategist or a marketing strategist or a graphic designer? They couldn't care less. What problem are you solving for us? That's what they care about, right? So if we can help them to kind of step into the shoes of being the customer, giving them a different perspective of seeing their business from the outside, not inside the jar. And in order to do that, because a brand is people's perception, what they say and think about the company. So if we don't ask people, if we don't know how to do research, how can we then say that we help people grow brands? Because guessing or asking ChatGPT is not doing research. We need to learn how to do real research, because otherwise we can never find out the perception of the brand. And if we don't know the perception of the brand and the true identity, who they want to be, then it's really difficult to identify that gap. But when we have a gap, it's pretty clear the actions we need to take to bridge that gap. Are we perceived the way we want to be perceived? Are we helping the customers to solve their problems? And do people even know that we exist? No. So I think this is a common misunderstanding of brands, that still people think a brand is a logo and a brand identity system, like a visual identity. A brand is so much more. And the second is, if you don't know how to find out how people really perceive the brand, then it's really difficult to create a brand strategy. So what I teach people, mostly creatives then, is to really facilitate. That's one of the most important things. If you don't know how to lead a meeting, it's okay with one person often. But when you have 10 people, executives that you work with, they will argue, they will debate things, they will not agree about things. It's really important to know, how do you plan and conduct workshop, a meeting like that, what kind of exercises do you need to do? How do you challenge people but still align people so they come together and agreeing about what to do? Because my work is not telling my clients what to do. My work is facilitating and helping, guiding them so we can align. Mm-hmm. So that's being a good facilitator is really important. And then to know the basic of how do we actually grow a brand? The theory on how to do it and the practice actually how to build a brand. And the main things are you need to know how to build distinctiveness, and you need to know how to build differentiation, and you need to know how to position a brand. And these are things that most creative people never studied in school. So I have to start from the basics. So that's where we start out, and then we practice this.
So we have to understand how to create the customer per Peter Drucker, right?
Yeah, that's the purpose of the business. If you don't have a customer, you don't have a business.
I struggle right now, because I thought that with my video production company that I'm entering into an existing market, but there's still not enough understanding from people who have audio podcasts, for example, that they need to go into video. And what I'm doing, I'm pretty much educating people that if you're not on YouTube, your podcast will die, because we're entering an era where YouTube will be the number one player in terms of podcast consumption, which it's already surpassed Spotify and Apple Podcasts, So, and I think this concept of creating the customer is something relevant for me too. But it's really time consuming and energy consuming, to do that, because you can invest so much of yourself, your energy and everything into educating the market and then not sell, So what do you advise to people who are only starting, who don't have an existing brand, and who don't have the people who they can survey? What if we need to how do we create a brand from ground up, basically?
I mean, first of all, and now I'm going to be very direct, but the thing is, when people say, I don't know who to survey, I don't have anyone to ask, then I'm like, but if you don't know who to ask in a survey, how do you know who to sell to?
So, but it's still a guessing game then. In the beginning, you just feel that this might be relevant for someone, and you go for it. And then you have...
But I think, but I think, first of all, and this is something that I recommend for everyone, I think it's really important to be good at your skill first. And this is something that I actually react to a lot when I see on social media. It's like, oh, you should charge more, you should do this. I think everyone should get really good at what they do first.
Yeah.
And if you're good at what you do and you can find one thing that you can specialize in, because it's easier when you're starting out to not be like, there are few things when it's good to be, I don't even like the word generalist, but when it's good to be good at many things. As for me, as being a CMO or being a strategist that I am and a little bit older with experience, I do have several things that I'm good at, but that comes with education and experience and everything. When you're starting out, you cannot be a generalist, because people will not hire a generalist that is not so experienced. But you can be really good at one thing. You can be the one person that solves a specific problem for a specific group of people who want to create podcasts. And you can niche down in that group of people and be the go-to person for that group of people. So that's one thing, specialize and be really good at one thing. And second, I would say, I think it's also really important that you find out what challenges they have. Because if they don't think they have a problem worth solving, they will not buy.
Yeah.
It's easier to work with clients that already are problem aware.
Yeah.
So they already know what the problem is. And many people who start out, they think it's easier. Everyone's like, I want to work with startups. I want to work with beginners, small companies. I'm like, why do you want to work with poor people who have just no money and a lot of time?
Yeah.
It's really difficult to sell to them because they don't have the money. They also have way too much time, so they can be involved in every detail you do, and they don't have the knowledge about what you're doing. So it's like really difficult in a lot of different ways. So sell to people who have less time, a lot of money, but not the knowledge you have.
Yeah.
I would go for a little bigger clients, maybe like business to business or something that is not like the most super sexy industry, but they really want to educate people. They want to share their knowledge. Maybe they want to create a podcast to just be that expert and position themselves like that. But they have a big budget. So that's how I would think, like follow the money. Who has the money? Who are aware of this problem? So you don't need to start educating people because it's a really tough road to take.
That's a brilliant advice, because I've just connected with the real estate agency from Dubai.
Yeah.
So real estate agency, and they have a lot of things to talk about that as a part of their business. They started the podcast. Now, the problem, obviously, which isn't like a never-ending problem, is that these businesses, they have an internal marketing team who thinks that they know everything, and it's really difficult for the internal marketing team to actually admit that they don't know shit about YouTube, for example, and they need to hire, an external specialist. So but this is a great advice.
But there's also opportunities in there, because you can start offering everything, but then you can also be a strategist around that. You come in, you set up everything. You have a strategy for how they will grow, how they will do this. You get paid to train and educate the internal team, and then you become their advisor, and they will do the production.
Wow.
And you work with another client.
And this is something that you do, right? This is like a absolutely realistic scenario.
Yes.
Wow.
I do this a lot because I don't want to really do production. So sometimes I do, because I like executing on strategy. There's an expression that the devil's is in the details. And it's true, because you can have a great strategy, but it's nothing unless you have great execution. And it's really difficult to have great execution without any strategy. So when we do a strategy, and strategy is basically like, what is the problem we have here? What is the goal they have? And what is the best way to get there? So you can do a podcast strategy too. There's strategy for everything. So if you can help them figure that out, so then we have a strategy. We have a problem to solve. We diagnose a problem. We have a strategy, and then we execute that. So we have a plan. So often when it comes to execution, I can maybe sometimes I work with a designer, for example, and we do the bigger pictures, like the concepts, the sketches of everything, so people can see where we're going and how everything is going to look like and feel like, and the tone of voice, like everything. But then I'm happy to help them to find an agency that will take over. And then I step into the role of being the client. I'm writing the brief. I'm helping they choose the right people to work with. Or if it's an internal, like in-house, I educate them. I help them. I write the briefs. I check in that, are we on brand here? Yeah, I can do quarterly audits to see. As I can stay there as an advisor, as a coach, but I'm just not doing the production all the time. So instead of I think I'm challenging you here. Instead of thinking this is a problem, I would see what different opportunities do I have with each client, because your job is not thinking the client is wrong. Your job is thinking, how can I best serve this client from what they have? And if they already have a team and they think they're really good at that, give them the best strategy, give them the best training that they need. And then you ask, how can I support you more? How can I make sure that this is going to be implemented the way we want? And that could be a really great client. And then you go to the next one, and maybe you will do the production for them. So in the mindset is more, how can I serve this client the best way, instead of like, this client is stupid, they're not doing it the wrong way, because they might have a great team. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of my mentors taught me that you just have to think in terms of giving value. You know, people will sooner or later, the compound effect will strike, and you'll at that point you'll plant so many seeds that is gonna explode. And it's just that this is like the valley of death sometimes, when you just have to give, and it's not, you see, at some point you're like, oh my god, I'm giving so much for free. But I think Chris told that he was giving for years and years and years. He was doing things for free before he started to monetize his content, right? So I think this is just the conscious choice all of us content makers should make, that there's going to be a pretty prolonged period of time where we have to just give value for free and not expect anything in return.
Yes, but I do think I want to say something about this. I agree to most of it, but it looks a little bit different now from when Chris started. There's so many content creators out there, or people who want to create content.
Plus
and
AI
now
saturates.
Sometimes it's even difficult to know, like, is this really an AI video or not? Like, it's just exploding. So what I'm thinking is, yes, I agree about giving. But I was talking to my community yesterday, and I said, you know what, guys, you need to have a strategy where you have at least 3 different ways that you generate leads. Your content creation is one way. That's really long term. It's like branding. It's like you don't know when it will be a return on investment. And I think this is where we start to see we're not in the pandemic anymore. People like to meet each other. And during the pandemic, everyone wanted to work on a global market. The world felt really small because we were all like, on Clubhouse, all these small places. And it felt like the world was really small. But now, when people go back in reality again, we're networking, we go into events, to conferences, and we realize that maybe it's not a bad thing to also look into the market where you're at and see what are the opportunities where I'm at. And of course, that looks different places in the world. But for most of us, I'm doing more work in Sweden now, for example, because I enjoy meeting clients in person. I enjoy doing talks on stage where I can speak my own language and I can look at people. I don't just want to live on social media and on Zoom. So I'm going back a little bit like that, but I will still be also, of course, creating content and all of that. So I just think it's important for all of us to think about, what do I need right now? Because when I started to create content and Chris started to create content, both of us, we were a little bit older. We had a runway. We had other places money came in from. I think a lot of younger people, maybe starting out, make a mistake thinking, I want to give away everything for free. I'm just going to be a content creator. I'm going to be on social media and then I'm going to make a lot of money. And that could happen, definitely. But if I would have a client service business, that is not how I would get my clients.
Well, all my clients come from my podcast. That's if someone wants to get relationships, and referrals, start a podcast.
That's amazing.
So it's a pretty good marketing vehicle. But I've never been selling anything to my guests or whatever. Just if someone feels like I'm a good guy. And plus, everyone sees the product that I put out. So you're going to see the quality of the show, the clips that we will create. And maybe if someone comes your way who needs a podcast, you'll remember that there's this guy, Sergey, who can help with that. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about personal brand as we end the show. So what if you are not someone who's making money solo, not an entrepreneur, whatever, or a corporate worker, or like a part of some branding agency? Do you still need to start creating your own personal brand, do you think?
I think today, it depends a little bit what we mean by personal brand, but I do think today that everyone needs to realize that we have a professional reputation. And if you are on LinkedIn, you cannot be there as your company. You are there as a person.
Yeah.
And the way you show up, I think it's really good if you thought about how you want people to perceive you and what you want to share and how you want to show up. And if you work for a company, it's really important that you talk to that company about what are our values? How do we show up? Because I think you always represent that company. And so if I work with clients, this is part of what we do when we do brand strategy and talk about the brand, like what people are talking about the brand, who are our brand ambassadors? How can we train people so they still have their own personality, but they also have a common ground in who we are as companies? Because just think about it. It could be like horrible things that someone just say something racist or about, whatever. It could be like horrible things. And then people see them represent that company they work for.
Do you remember the astronomer CEO kissing the head of HR at the concert? So this is exactly what happens, right? Their personal brands hurt the reputation of the entire company.
Yeah, so things like that could happen. And so I just think it's like, it's really important. So I do think, yes, everyone have a personal brand. When it comes to the companies, we need to have a strategy because I work with company brands, right? First, but I also work with personal brand, but with the company brand, because they need to be integrated. We need to decide about what is the personal brand? What do we stand for? What do we stand up for? What is our mission, vision, all of that? Our personality, like we try to humanize the company so it feels a little bit less boring corporate and a little bit actually like an entity that people could connect to and like. So, and from that, who are our spokespersons who can actually talk from the brand as representing the brand? And those could be, they are of course personal brands, but they're also brand ambassadors for the company. And they are often the one who get maybe most followers or people are most interested to listen to. So that's really important. But there need to be a strategy like, am I on LinkedIn and other platforms as my personal brand, or am I there as representing my company?
And I've seen this a lot of times with influencers who were a part of a big entity first. I don't know if let's take example of ESPN analyst. I like basketball. There's a guy named Stephen A. Smith. So he was working for ESPN for like 15 years. Then he started his own podcast, and his own movement. Now he's a celebrity in his own right. But he followed the rules of the game and he associated himself with a big corporation first.
Yeah.
But I think if you don't have your unique voice, it will be difficult to branch out and create this new brand only with yourself. So I think I've never been in a position like that. But I think if I was someone who represented a big popular business name, I would want to also share my own views, not only the views of my company, because maybe in future I would want to go and sail on my own,
Yeah, and I think this is a challenge for a lot of people and probably something that you will come up against. Maybe people will say it, maybe they will just think it. But I even know this when I talk a lot about employer branding and how we can live the brand and how we, work with with the culture in the company and people as brand ambassadors, like even, telling stories about people, putting them on the website, showing them on social media. A lot of companies don't want that because what happens is that they're basically showing up their most important asset, and a competitor will reach out to them and want to recruit them. So this is a challenge when we do things like a podcast, for example, because one thing is to share your knowledge and what you stand for as a company and to show that the company is the expert. But if it becomes too much about a person and that person want to build their personal brand and show up as the expert because maybe they have an idea that they want to branch off and have their own, that could hurt the company because maybe someone else want to hire them or they, so we need to be a little bit aware about those things. Like if you represent or if you work for a company, then it's actually that company that need to have a strategy for how are we going to build brand equity and value in our brand. And then if we use a couple of people as ambassadors, what's the strategy behind that?
Maybe some kind of an agreement or a contract where you should sign a non-compete for 5 years or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people do. I just know that this comes up a lot with my clients. And you can't protect yourself from it. But you also might want to, I come to think about, for example, when we talk about real estate, I like all these like real estate shows on Netflix. Have you seen any of them?
Oh, yeah. Best Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. So I like Ryan Serhant. Mm-hmm. And his show, Serhant, is, they had this episode in that show that two of the brokers were starting a podcast. And the podcast studio was in their office. So I guess they actually represented Serhant when they were creating the podcast. And the two people then started to trash talk other brokers working at Serhant. Which is like the worst thing that could happen for a brand. Like you can't have people talking bad things about other people and in the same brand. Yeah. That guy who started that, he got fired. But anyway, it was just like a really good example of sometimes when people get the opportunity to do something like this, let's start a podcast. And then they don't think about that they're actually representing the brand. And what do we agree about talking about? What is a no to talk about?
Yeah.
Those discussions needs to be in place.
How can people follow you? How can they benefit from what you do? Like any final call to message from you, Anneli?
Yeah, I a lot of my content that I create, and I'm on Instagram. That's where I've been most active. I've been a little bit having a pause on social media, but I'm coming back now. I'm just like rethinking a little bit who I write it for and how I'm going to do that, because I think creating content 2026 on social media has to be from your own perspective. I'm not going to show people. I'm not going to share how to do things because people ask ChatGPT how to do things. I'm going to share, this is how I do it.
Story.
This is behind the scenes. This is me facilitating with a real client. Like I'm on my way from a client thing. This is what we learned.
And this is what AI you will recommend to everyone. This should be the year of our own stories. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you need to think about, can AI make a fake video out of this? Can people just ask AI how to do this? If you help people to build up their podcasts, there are stories behind that. There's things you learn. There's like lessons of things. That's a story. Like that's what you can do. But so this is what I'm going to do. So I'm a little bit like pivoting my social, but people can find me on Instagram. I'm the Anneli Hansen, and hopefully you can have some links here. Yeah. And then on LinkedIn, where I'm most active. And you can go back if you want to learn a little bit about foundations on how to build brands, marketing, sales, all these good things that a lot of creative people actually need to know about their business. I've done tons of carousels about that. So it's a little bit almost like a mini course. So that's the best way to find me, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Great. So thank you so much. You have a great week ahead of you. Thank you, Anneli.
Thank you so much. And I do want to just remind everyone that first of all, if you work with something that is any creative thinking, make sure that you get paid for your thinking. And second, I do think in this world right now, with everything craziness that's going on, that if we really want to stand out, I think our creativity and imagination and everything that makes us unique, creative thinkers, that will be the thing that you really want to embrace. And I do think creative people are like the champions of doing that. So for everyone who wants to build a brand, don't forget to be human, because everything about branding 2026 will be about being as human as possible.
We're going to make a clip out of this last message, and this is going to go viral. Thank you, Anneli. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.